So we've heard previously about applications of space technology, and as you all know, space is now very much a part of our everyday lives. But we've only just, nevertheless, started to scratch the surface of what space can do for us here on Earth. And we need to push forward and to develop new applications, new services, and to help grow the economy, because space is a very rapidly developing area, a very rapid growth market. And if we're to do that, we have to do things differently. We have to be innovative, and that just doesn't mean technical innovation, but it also means organizational innovation. And my name is Keith Mason. I'm from the International Space Innovation Centre, ISIC, and one of the reasons that ISIC was created was to do things differently. And of course, space is also by definition a global market. We need to work together across national boundaries to both to combine our capabilities, but also to broaden our market reach, to make these things happen in a more sustainable way. So that's the subject of the next session. We've got a number of experts here in international engagement we're going to hear from. And without further ado, I'd like to ask Georgina Watts from UKTI to tell us about international engagement from their point of view. Georgina, thanks.
I'm Georgina Watts. I'm from UK Trade and Investment, and I head up the Advanced Engineering Investment Projects team. And I'm going to persuade you today that the UK is a great place to do business for the global space industry. So first, a bit of history. The UK Space Agency was established by government due to industry pull. So 3 years ago, there was no space agency at all. It was a more complicated picture, and there wasn't a coherent overarching strategy, although there was an organisation trying to pull together the wishes of different government sectors, different government departments. So the UK Space Agency was created due to industry pull, and therefore it's very industry focused. The National Space Technology Strategy sets out where the space industry needs to grow. And it's identified five thematic areas. It sets these out in roadmaps as to where there are gaps and where they need funding. And this, as I said, is very much sort of industry driven. Alongside the establishment of the UK Space Agency, a UK ESA office was set up to help support UK companies to access ESA funding. And, as we've heard from Keith, the International Space Innovation Centre at Harwell acts as a hub for UK space technology activities. We also have a space application catapult, which is starting in it should start in autumn 2012. And it will enable innovative ideas for space applications to get to market more quickly, including for SMEs. So it provides a real opportunity. It's part of the government's commitment to the UK ambition to grow the market share in space from 6% to 10% by 2030. So, the space and satellite industry is one of the UK's unsung success stories. It contributes £7.5 billion a year to the UK economy, and it directly employs nearly 25,000 people, supporting 60,000 further jobs across a variety of industries. There's been consistent growth in the UK space sector at around 9% per annum over the past few years. And I've demonstrated that government is committed to continuing to see this grow through the establishment of the various so the UK Space Agency, ISIC, the UK ESA office. Through the Space Agency and the National Space Technology Strategy, the government is also committed to doubling its contribution to ESA over the next 10 years. And we are now starting to see the fruits of this in the Just Retort system. Supporting all of this increased opportunity arising from the national strategy, there's also a strong market framework. We have the most competitive tax regime in Europe. We have Patent Box starting in April 2013, which gives access to a 10% tax rate for income from patents. R&D tax credits, a very successful system, is continuing to be improved for industry. We have a compelling European headquarters offer and increasingly low corporation tax rate. By April 2014, it will be 22%. We also have world-renowned space clusters, including at Harwell, and access to a wide and diverse range of skilled scientists and engineers, with 15 UK universities doing space-related research. The UK therefore provides an excellent base from which to take advantage of UK and European space market. If you'd like any more information about how you can locate in the UK to take advantage of this opportunity, or indeed how you can use UKTI to exploit export potential, please do look on our website or contact me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Georgina. And the next speaker is Martin Ditter from the ISA Centre at Harwell.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Keith, for introducing me. Thank you for being here. My name is Martin Ditter. I'm the project manager of ISA's new presence that Georgina has alluded to in the UK. I'm here since 2009. It's a great time to have come to the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom has given itself a new strategy for space, the innovation and growth strategy. Georgina mentioned the ambitions behind this innovation and growth strategy. And for ISA, there's a role in this innovation and growth strategy to help deliver on the objective of 10% market share for the space sector, for the UK space sector by 2030. A big ambition, and therefore we are really glad to be part of this and to build on this from our new base in Harwell. Now, this week is going to be exciting and full of new announcements. At Space Day tomorrow, there will be an industry day on Thursday. So what I want to do very briefly is just to give an introduction to all this and let my colleagues break the news. But I want to make the link to these opportunities that Georgina referred to and that are linked to the innovation theme that surrounds Harwell and the new space cluster. So what I'm going to do quickly is to go through the ISA presence, what ISA is and what it isn't. I think this is important. Very often I meet people, they see the word E and they stop there and say, we have understood it. This is Europe. It is Europe, but not quite as simple as that. I then want to look at what we're doing in general to give you an overview how ISA does business and how this links to opportunities in growth, to opportunities in business, in export. And finally, I want to mention a very important event that happens at the end of this year, and again an event that you will hear a lot about during this week, which is the ISA Ministerial Conference 2012, where important funding decisions will be made and define the future of our work. Now, just a bit of a sales pitch on ISA that a colleague has made available for me today. So ISA is created in the early 70s, 40 years of experience in space technology, quite a lot to look back to and be proud of. 6 establishments in Europe, plus the one in Harwell since 2009. So since 2009 we are in Harwell, I mentioned it. 4 billion euro budget per annum, 1 billion about, give and take, is money that we handle on behalf of the European Union. So the European Space Agency's engineering capability is made available to the European Union to act. I'll let her finish. budget, so 3 billion plus 1 billion. 1 billion we handle for the European Union, where we basically deploy our engineering teams to work on behalf of the European Union and procure and manage space projects. Now, the difference, just to remind ourselves, the difference to the European Union, ESA is a group, is an organization created by a group of 19 member states. We'll soon be 20 when Poland joins us. And we operate with funds, with monies that are contributed to the ESA budget against program proposals. We tell people what we want to do on the basis of a consultation process. So we use these monies to implement programs, and the monies are spent back into the countries that contribute them. We call that geographical return. For some people it's a bad word. For us it's actually an advantage. We are an implementing arm of the governments that are part of our organizations. So let's move on to what we are doing. What our activities are. So we have a mandatory program, which is about 20%, I have to stay closer, which covers about 20% of our budget, or uses up 20% of our budget. That's the space science program and a number of core technology activities. And then we have a lot of activities that are almost like household names. Ariane, everybody knows. Galileo, although we are only partly responsible, or we can only partly take credit for Galileo, which is a European Union project. We have our Earth observation programs. Actually, the Earth observation program is the biggest program in ESA, and our meteorological program. You've seen the satellite blast off last week. Now, we do a lot of technology. We do in-orbit demonstration to help mature technology made in Europe and bring them into space and to deliver European space projects. But we do more. We also try to promote what we heard earlier today. We try to promote the use of these technologies in wider areas. In that context, we operate technology transfer programs. We have business incubators. So these business incubators in particular are a huge success. The Harbour one, there was one created recently in Harbour that didn't even take a year to fill all its offices with fledgling companies who base their business on space technology and space services. There's a business incubator, a bit older business incubator in Germany that is said to have created 1,000 jobs on the basis of this business incubation capability. We also have a program that looks at the possibility to using space data, space services, together with terrestrial services for the benefit of government services, of any commercial services, or for the benefit of the European citizen in general. It's the European Integrated Application Promotion Program. This program only exists since 2009, but has gone off to a real strong start, and we are eagerly waiting for the first services to be commercialized with the help of our partners, and that's what is important for us here in the UK, in the International Space Innovation Center, and to come, hopefully, the Space Application Catapult that will start operating later this year. So as you see, we have a broad spectrum. We are mainly an R&D organization, but we do try to reach out and make sure that these space systems are used. What I need to mention is that we are very user-oriented. Now, user is not always the same in the different program. When you look at the space science program, we're talking to users who are astrophysicists or earth scientists. When we talk about telecommunication, the users obviously are somewhere else. And I had the privilege to work with Ken Ashton, who spoke earlier, and to learn an awful lot about air navigation services during the time that I worked in IGNOS. So I covered this. I'll leave that on just as a holding slide while I make a short point on the ministerial conference in 2012 at the end of this year. I think the European Space Agency has demonstrated over the last 40 years, and even more so over the last decade, how it helps the European economy, the European space industry, and the broader community develop business in Europe, nationally, and abroad. That's true, obviously, for satellite applications, which by definition are global, because you can provide satellite navigation services with Galileo once it's complete worldwide. Our task to live up to the UK's expectation, helping to deliver the growth through ESA programs, will lead us to making proposals in areas that are particularly suitable for delivering this growth. And I think we will hear in the days to come how, in particular in the Earth observation and telecommunication sector, our directors have worked with the community to bring up proposals, to put on the table proposals that will convince, hopefully, the UK government that we are there to deliver and that we have the right recipes. And we will work in Harwell together with the International Innovation, the Space Innovation Center, and the Catapult that hopefully will come to Harwell as well, to deliver over the next years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Martin. Our next speaker is Sergei Zhukov, who's come over from Russia to talk to us, and he's going to tell us about a very exciting initiative going on there with the setting up of the Skolkovo Foundation and all the developments that go along with that.
Ladies and gentlemen, I represent Russian innovative center called Skolkovo. Why Russia? Russia is a fast-growing commodities and driven economy. 140 million people, good traditions in science and technology, very well educated, older and middle generation, at least. Sixth largest R&D spender in the world right now. And the Skolkovo Innovation Center was established approximately 2 years ago under the presidential decision and special act of Russian Federation, special law. We have 4 billion euros capital for startups. We are building the new city on a 400 hectares, quite close to Moscow, with approximately 30,000 residents in a living area and a techno park. We established a great corporate location there. And that is some small example. The building is already in the process. The first building will be occupied in October this year. The Scientific Advisory Council of our Innovation Center consisted from approximately 50 prominent scientists, 50% of them from the foreign countries, 2 co-chairmen, Nobel Prize winners, Jurij Alferov and Roger Kornberg. We have 5 technology areas, 5 clusters, and more than 500 companies already became residents of Skolkovo Innovation Centers. You may see these clusters are energy, IT, biomedical, space, and nuclear. And more than 200 million US dollars already given as a grant. In Skolkovo, we have a complex approach. We established a university, Skolkovo Institute of Science and Technology, corporate incubator, 5 clusters, as I mentioned, and a majors corporation who are working with us. Right now, we have 28 big companies. We are our key partners. And among them, you see General Electric, IBM, Johnson & Johnson, Microsoft, EADS, and other companies. We have 32 venture capital funds which are working with us. And we provide the main idea and the main task of our center to provide support to startups, accounting, customs duty exempt. You know, we have a zero profit tax, we have zero VAT tax, 14% of social tax, zero custom rate, and other privileges we give to our startups. Our grants are two-stage. Zero stage is from 35,000 euros to 120,000 euros with a 0% of co-investment. It's a right of the director of a cluster. For example, myself may give the grants up to 120,000 euros without any grant committees. Then 3 more stages to 800,000 euros through 3.6 million euros and up to 7.5 million euros with the co-investment. First stage, we request startup companies to become our residents. It requires approximately 30 days. And the second stage, you may receive a grant. It takes about 3 months. More details about the space technologies and telecommunication cluster. We have our foresight now. We have a big panel of experts, about 140 experts, and international experts are cordially invited to be our expert. We closely cooperate with the Russian Space Agency on the different areas of cooperation. I'm sorry, what is it? It is some secret attack. We signed the agreement with the agency. We decided with Mr. Popovkin that the high-risky projects we will support first. Such project may not be supported by the federal space program. We developed proposals for the space strategy 2030 and the public-private partnership, and we gave to Roscosmos many ideas. That is one of the examples, our meetings. It's a meeting of the Club of Clusters Friends. More than 200 people met with Mr. Popovkin. And the meeting took place about 3 hours. We gave a lot of ideas to Roscosmos. That is several examples of international projects. At VINSAT, probably some of you already heard about this project. VINSAT, it's micro and nano satellites for early detection and monitoring earthquake predictions. The micro satellite should be built by the Russian partner and nano satellite by the University of College of London. That is some interesting example. We presented this project to the grant committee, and the grant committee decided that it is too complicated because unusual and not very proved theory. It's a fundamental science, and also this project is complicated in the engineering point of view. We have to build 2 satellites. Grant committee decided not to give the grant. Finally, I gave the grant for 120,000 euros, and we are preparing for the next presentation for the grant committee. EADS Russian Technology Office a couple of weeks ago received a grant, about 1,700,000 euros on the detonation engine. It's a project developing together with the Russian Academy of Science, Novosibirsk, Siberian chapter of the Russian Academy of Sciences, Institute of Hydromechanics, and we are now in the process of the development of the project. Some of the ideas concerning International Space Innovation Center and Skolkovo cooperation. We have right now the resident called Sputniks, which is aimed to satellite R&D business development. We hope that Mr. Sir Martin Sweden will work with us. We already had a preliminary contacts in a lessons learned exchange. Also, another resident of Skolkovo Innovation Center developing a commercial service for CubeSat satellites group launch using Soyuz capabilities. We invite ISIC to be an international channel and marketing partner for that. Other more ideas you also may read in it. Tomorrow, we are planning to sign the agreement, MOU, with the International Space Innovation Center. And all of you, dear colleagues, I invite you to cooperate with Russia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sergei. Next speaker is Ian McMahon from Scottish Enterprise.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for hanging around long enough, and let's hope we don't have to fight too much with aircraft flying displays or announcements, but I'll stop if there are any. I learned years ago from listening to ladies' voices, having a wife and 2 daughters, to keep my mouth shut until they'd finished talking. I was taking the remote, but we'll work without it. There we go. I'm Ian McMahon. I head up Aerospace, Defence and Marine for Scottish Enterprise, which is the principal economic development agency in Scotland. You'll notice that we're using the SDI logo, and this SDI is effectively, Scottish Development International, is effectively the international arm of our organisation. We have about 23 offices worldwide. We support Scottish companies seeking to trade overseas, but we also provide support to companies seeking to set up in Scotland. And I'll come to how we might be able to help later on. Apologies that I'm doing this and not Ross. Ross White in my team is the guy who looks after space. Ross was slated to come down later in the week to Farnborough, so I've agreed to stand in and do this presentation. Our principal aim as an agency working with any business is to help in commercialisation, to help in the development of jobs, to create profits for companies, and to create economic development or economic impact for Scotland as a result of it. So that's basically where we come from. A bit of background: Scotland, as most of you probably realise, has a tremendous heritage for engineering excellence. In aerospace, defence and marine, that means we have around 850 companies involved to some extent in the sector, and that includes security and resilience and space, which we take in as part of that title. Around $8.5 billion in sales and about 40,000 direct employees. You'll see some examples of some of the engineering we manufacture in Scotland for every one of the Airbus range, some wing technology as an example. We also have the UK's main centre for warship construction, but space is a small but innovative and dynamic and rapidly growing part of the industry in Scotland, and it's one that we're keen to promote. We actually have genuinely leading space technology in Scotland with space heritage, so it's not all theoretical stuff. There's stuff up there flying at the moment that's come out of Scotland, so it does have some heritage. Some examples, and I've put up a few examples there of where we are working, but key projects would include the likes of Clyde Space. You remember, if you were at Farnborough a couple of years ago, at the first time we had a space session here, the UK Space Agency committed to UQ1. That's actually been built in Glasgow, and proudly Clyde built, as the ships used to be, by Clyde Space. Star Dundee is a spin-out from the University of Dundee Space Technology Centre. Obviously, they were involved at very early doors in the creation of the SpaceWire comm standard, and that's in use across a wide range of space agencies around the world. We've got the likes of Celex, Galileo in Edinburgh, with a non-ITAR MEMS gyro, which is now actually being used and purchased by customers such as OHB Systems. And then missiles and space batteries would be another good example. Basically manufacturing thermal and space batteries capable of operating in harsh environments with very little reduction in performance. So we've got companies who are space ready, companies who are ready to integrate into your supply chains at all levels. As I said, they're supported by world-leading research groups. There are 4 universities in Scotland with space activity. Principal among them at the moment is Strathclyde University, which is a location of the Advanced Space Concepts Lab. They're doing about £2 million worth of research for Astrium and for ESA at the moment in low TRL and visionary research, including hypersonics and novel orbits. Space Glasgow is a newly formed part of Glasgow University, which brings together the physics, astronomy and engineering interests of the university, and they're involved in a variety of missions, including the construction of highly stable lasers for the NASA LISA Pathfinder mission. Space Technology Centre at Dundee is another one which many of you will know. They've been a ground receiving station since 1978, and they're involved heavily in SpaceWire, but they're also now working on the PANGU, the Planetary Landing Simulation Tool, which is going into the ExoMars mission. And then Geosciences at Edinburgh University, heavily involved in the downstream market and using space-based data for areas like carbon monitoring and trading. So we've got academic research in Scotland which is capable of working with and works heavily with industry partners, bringing stuff to commercial reality. So it's not all about the theory, it's about the practice of making profit from this stuff. Underpinned by the fact that we are the location for one of the UK National Technology Centre, the Astronomy Technology Centre in Edinburgh. That's the Royal Observatory in Edinburgh basically just outside the city centre. They're involved in design, test and prototyping of space equipment with a specialism in cryogenics, optics and low power electronics and of course systems integration. And they have a proven heritage with about $11 million worth of equipment delivered to both NASA and ESA. They're looking for active project partners, they're looking for project work, and it's a good way to try and get in there and de-risk your R&D by outtasking design, test and prototyping. So another opportunity. In terms of support, I've put down a range of just some of the things that we do as an agency to support companies and support commercialisation. R&D and innovation support is a major thrust of what we do. That applies anywhere in Scotland, and it can be a rate for support on a project-by-project basis, depending on the size of the company, up to 45%. Large companies top out at 25%. For small companies, we can go up to 45% on a project-by-project basis. And that includes the cost of the people involved in the projects. It's not just the materials or the facilities, it's actually the people. So it's company specific. We also get involved and support UK and EU collaborative programmes. RSA Regional Selective Assistance applies only in certain areas of Scotland, but is being used by space companies even as we speak to tap into to get financial support. We also operate the Scottish Investment Bank and another 2 co-investment funds, so we can actually invest directly in the companies that are doing this stuff and have indeed helped to set up companies in Scotland involved in the space sector. And then we have a whole raft of support projects, support products, from training right the way through to, I mean, there's a whole variety. There's about 80 different products that we can apply in support of companies, plus we provide training support, especially for international mobile projects, so we can actually help and those are very lucrative in terms of the support that's available. For companies of a sufficient size or ones with growth potential, we actually give you an account manager, and it's that account manager's job to work with companies on every aspect of what they do. Some of the other stuff in there I won't go into in any depth, but rest assured we've got a lot of mechanisms there to actually support companies in Scotland. So, opportunities, leading edge companies who can help you on collaborative projects, get you involved or get directly involved in your supply chain at the early stages. World-renowned research. The research centre underpinned by the fact that we have the research centre, and then a very supportive environment. Basically, we're also currently working on a project to help integrate some of the work that's going on in Scotland. Ross has done a tremendous job of trying to pull together the various aspects, the various companies and the various university departments, and to start getting engagement with the likes of ISIC and ESA. We're working on a project that's going to even intensify that further. So if you're involved in the Scottish space sector, there's an easy way in. You contact us. We're in Hall 1, stand B18. Ross will be here from Wednesday onwards, but come and speak to anybody on the stand at any time, and you can also pick up a copy of the dedicated brochure, Space, or Scotland in Space. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Ian. So our next speaker, our final speaker in fact, is Catherine Mealing-Jones from the UK Space Agency, who's gallantly negotiated the queues to get in here and finally made it. Thank you, Catherine.
Okay, thanks. Hopefully it's worth the effort. It looks fantastic here today. I was just going to say a very few words about the role of the UK Space Agency in this area of business, and I'm only going to speak for a couple of minutes, so hopefully we can then move on to the Q&A. As you will have seen from our stand, we're all about growth. Growth is at the heart of our strategy in the agency, and I think we've all got a real challenge to continue to grow and stay on the kind of target trajectories that we're looking for in terms of space growth. I'm only just using one slide, which really is a summary of the UK Space Agency's approach to life, and you'll hear more about that during the course of the week. But as you'll see, new markets, new applications, exploiting international partnerships and so on is absolutely our core business. And we have a number, of course, of key pieces of international work. Our work in the European Union, our work with ESA, our preparation for things like Horizon 2020 coming up, which is a big piece of collaboration and can take our work out and beyond the Union, and our approach to industrial policy as well, all key to this area. We do work very closely with our partners in industry. Without industry input, we wouldn't have the strategy that we have today, or the emerging strategy that we have today. And cross-government join-up is also absolutely key. So colleagues in UKTI, colleagues in the Foreign Office, colleagues in MOD and so on are also absolutely crucial to this, as well as other units in our parent department, the Business Innovation and Skills Department. We have a kind of key body which helps us coordinate our efforts on trade and international engagement, which is called the TIPIC, and that's a kind of quarterly trade promotion outfit which meets with the key government players and the key industry players together. And I believe that that's taking a slightly more strategic look than it has done to date, and I think that's going to be absolutely crucial to capturing the sort of growth that we're looking for. So we recently agreed an international trade strategy where I think we're trying to recognise that unless we really zone in on the key areas that we need to grow and develop and the key countries and export markets that we need to target, our efforts in this area will always be too dispersed to have real impact. So it's a good melting pot for the ideas of industry and the ideas of government, and I hope we'll start to bring together a more coordinated action plan so that we can see how we get the kind of expansion that we're looking for. I see this piece of work as something in a bigger piece, which is called what we're calling the restack of the Space Innovation and Growth Strategy. Back in 2010, that key document brought together all of the activities that were taking place to try and grow the sector. And this 2012 restack is a recognition that we'll have some new numbers. We can look back and reflect on the last couple of years. We're in a different political phase, and we've got things like the ESA ministerial this year and so on. So what we'll do is try and pull through the best actions that still need completing from the previous iteration of the strategy. We'll keep the same aims and vision, and we'll put in the new actions that we think will make a difference. And international engagement, market engagement, growing export opportunities is clearly a key part of that. So I hope that's given you a very brief idea of what the UK Space Agency does in this area. And I'll stop there and we'll, I think, move into the Q&A.
Thank you very much, Catherine. So we now have a few minutes to question our panel. So does anybody want to lead off? Any questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Paul Fevera, who's the Director of the Catapult. Just a couple of questions, actually. First of all, one for Martin Ditter. We hear that the SMEs are going to be the engine of growth. Can you say a couple of words about how the Integrated Application Programme might actually be supporting SMEs in the future?
Yes, thanks, Paul. I believe that to grow we need to expand our footprint, and it is sort of let's say common knowledge that we have. Does this not work?
I'll try. I think.
Okay. There's a lot of potential in the SME community to bring this innovation capital to the sector. So the Integrated Application Programme is typically a program that looks in different areas. I mean, parting from the traditional ESA space activities, goes out and looks at the user communities, looks at people who can build the bridges between the traditional space business and the user communities. And we believe that there is a gold mine to be found in the SME community. And that is why we are thrilled that the Satellite Application Catapult has been announced earlier this year. And we're looking forward to building these links between what I mentioned as the traditional space sector, which has an enormous potential, and the user community that the Catapult can help us develop. And the Integrated Application Programme will be there, will listen and will support to deliver that growth that Catherine was referring to.
Yeah, second.
Thank you very much. I've got one on regulatory matters, so I'm not sure whether it's Georgina or Catherine needs to pick this up. But there's certainly some markets where there has been technology barriers towards achieving success, but other markets perhaps where there's been government policy type issues, whether it's regulatory aspects, and one could look perhaps at something like civil sector, communications, Tetra, extension, etc. How do you see perhaps the channels by which industry might inform government policy in the future developing?
Thanks. I think that's a tricky one without getting into specifics of individual markets and individual things. I think it probably is true if these are real barriers to growth and not just a kind of one-off problem. I think they're things that we should pull into the innovation and growth strategy restack. That's about identifying the absolutely key actions that we're looking for to drive growth and pulling those barriers down. So I think there are established mechanisms with a couple of people who work on regulatory matters in the Space Agency, but if it's a more strategic issue that we need cross-government and cross-industry engagement on, then I see it taking place as part of this refresh, which is around those really big, taking away those really big barriers to growth.